Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This morning we'll chant together text 2, Canto 10, Chapter 40, and then we'll go on to 3 because there's no purport here. Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kam Adir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Vibhutascha Sarve Yehe Tabaste Jagaton Gabhotam Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kam Adir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Vibhutascha Sarve Yehe Tabaste Jagaton Gabhota Toyam Agni Pravanam Kamadir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kamadir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Vibhutascha Sarve Yehe Tabasto Jagaton Gabhotaha Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kam Adir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Sarve Yehe Tabaste Jagaton Gabhotaha. Ladies. Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kam Adir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Vibhutascha Sarve Yehe Tabaste Jagaton Gabhotaha Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kam Adir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Vibhutascha Sarve Yehe Tabaste Jagaton Gabhotaha Bhustayam Agni Pravanam Kam Adir Mahan Ajadir Mana Indriyani Sarvindriyartha Vibhutascha Sarve Yehe tavaste jagatonga bhotaha. Bhu, earth. Toyam, water. Agnihi, fire. Pavanam, air. Tam, ether. Adihi, and its source. False ego. Mahan, the Mahatattva. Aja, the total material nature. Adihi, her source, the Supreme Lord. Manaha, the mind. Indriyani, the senses. Sarva Indriya, of all the senses. Artha, the objects. Vibhuddha, the demigods. Cha, and sarve, all. Ye, which. Hetavaha, causes. Te, your. Jagataha, of the universe. Anga, from the body. Bhotaha, generated. Translation: earth, water, fire, air, ether, and its source, false ego. The Mahatattva, the total material nature, and her source, the Supreme Lord's Purusha, expansion. The senses, the sense objects, and the senses presiding deities. All these causes of the cosmic manifestation are born from your transcendental body. No purport. Text 3. The total material nature and these other elements of creation certainly cannot know you as you are, for they are manifested in the realm of dull matter. Since you are beyond the modes of nature, even Lord Brahma, who is bound up by these modes, does not know your true identity. Purport. God is transcendental to material nature, and thus we also transcend the limited consciousness of material existence. We cannot know Him. Even the greatest living entity in the universe, Brahma, cannot understand the Supreme unless he comes to the platform of pure Krishna consciousness. And one reading of this is, Akrura knows more than Brahma knows. Or in Kunti's prayers, she knows more than all the transcendentalists know, because she says all kinds of things that express her understanding of him. Or another reading of this is, Akrura is also bewildered, understanding, as Brahma does, in principle, Krishna is the source of everything. Brahma certainly knows that. And Akrura certainly is expressing he knows that. Then comes the distinction between knowing something and realizing something. When I first read this verse, I was thinking, what would it be like to be seeing Krishna face to face, knowing that he's the source of everything, from his specifically, from his body, anga, in the word for this morning. Anga bhutaha, the last phrase at this verse that's on the board. From the body, all this is generated. So you're Akrura, or somebody, Queen Kunti, or somebody, with transcendental knowledge of Krishna, and you're looking at Krishna and you know that he's the source of everything. What would that be like? And then even above that Akrura understands and Brahma understands, the residents of Vrindavan are even above that. How exalted are the residents of Vrindavan? One thing is inconceivable, and beyond that is more inconceivable. Shukadeva Goswami states the same. The celebrated verse where Sukadeva Goswami, after describing in chapter 12 of Canto 10, he is describing what happens after the cowherd boys leave Vrindavan and go to the forest, and what their activities are. And essentially, they're just playing like little boys will play. But the person who they're playing with is this person who is the source of everything. And so Shukadeva Goswami says, Krita Punya Punja, who can say, what is the qualification of these cowherd boys? And then he lists the different people who have a different kind of regard for Krishna. And there are those who aspire for Brahmasukha. Brahmasukha is Sukha means happiness, the happiness of Brahman realization. Sukhanubritya. They're absorbed, or trying to be at least absorbed in the happiness of Brahman. That is, beyond matter, as this purport, the short purport, beyond matter, beyond material existence. Beyond material existence means nirvana. So they're beyond nirvana, and they're beyond material existence, and they're beyond nirvana. They're searching for, because nirvana is just negation, and they're searching for beyond negation. They're searching for Brahman happiness. Or, Sukadeva Goswami says, those who are Krishna's servants, dasya. They're serving him in the mood of, he's Hari, so they're Hari dasyas, servants of Hari, and they worship him. Now that's kind of like what Akrura is doing. He's worshiping Krishna. And then the third example is those who are materialists, who just think of Krishna as an ordinary person, or more offensive, he's fiction, or something else. But these cowherd boys, so the residents of Vrindavan, they have such, they're beyond knowing who Krishna is. But they're not in La La Land. They're not in covered by illusion, by Mahamaya. They're under the influence of Yoga Maya, such that when Krishna shows his divinity, they think differently. Because their love is so strong, their mood of intimacy is so strong. How exalted. So that's part of our picture, for particularly the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But one can say it's within the pages of the Bhagavatam. It's within the pages of the Bhagavatam. But not everybody gets it. Akrura gets it, but he's not there. Something like maybe a learned Vaishnav might get it, but they're not there. I was thinking this morning of there are two amongst in our sampradaya is Lord Brahma, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. And amongst the Gaudiya means Lord Chaitanya. He appeared in Gauda Desh, and he's a Gaudiya Sampradaya. Followers of Lord Chaitanya understand this about Krishna and the basis of Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, and that original form of Krishna, his most intimate feature is in Vrindavan, and the scene here is just outside of Vrindavan in Mathura. But Akrura went to Mathura, went to Vrindavan, and he saw what he saw, and he understands what he understands. He's not a Brijvasi, but he, like Brahma and like Akrura, he looks up to the Brijvasis, but he's not a Brijvasi. He's a pure devotee. We know from scripture he's achieved perfection from his prayers. And his prayers were offered after Krishna showed him the spiritual world. He's showing his form, and then he shows him the spiritual world. It's, this scene where he enters the river Jamuna and shows him the spiritual world. And he shows that Krishna's in the spiritual world while he's at the same time seated in the chariot by the side of the river Jamuna. Anyway, so he offers prayers. So one of the 9 processes of bhakti is offering prayers. So he is a perfect devotee. And there's a mystery surrounding his being a perfect devotee and yet doing some of the things that he did in Dwaraka. That's another morning class. But he understands Krishna. He has Ye Krishna Tattva Se Guru Hoy. He's a qualified, pure devotee, perfected devotee, everything. But he's not a Brijvasi. There are others that are like that. So there's another Sampradaya, the Sri Sampradaya. And the Sri Sampradaya comes from Goddess of Fortune Lakshmi. And then there are followers of the Goddess of Fortune Lakshmi who understand that Narayana is the Supreme Lord, and that Krishna is an avatar of Narayana. That's their view. Based on scripture, they have their references that say like this. And then the teachings, that's the foundational Narayana Tattva. And the teachings of the Sri Sampradaya were assembled by Ramanujacharya. They were understood by Jamunacharya, and then not through giving instructions to Ramanujacharya, because there was no physical interaction between the two, but he empowered him. And so you can say Jamunacharya, but Ramanujacharya wrote it down, the teachings, and the teachings are based upon the teachings of the Alvars. Alvars are very exalted persons who wrote various sayings or teachings or prayers to Narayana, and they're assembled in the standard, those that are very involved, Sri Vaishnavas. They study, they worship, they remember, they recite the prayers of the Alvars. And 2 of the Alvars, Andal is one of the ladies amongst the Alvars, and Nam Alvar, part of their prayers are in the mood of gopis. At the same time that their mood of devotion to Narayana is in the mood of the gopis, their view is that Narayana is everything and Krishna is an avatar, and they were absorbed in the mood of the Alvars, of the gopis. Their prayers are like that. much like we hear one of the Alvars, Prabhupada was very much like King Kulashekar. Prayers of King Kulashekar. Prabhupada recited them. They're quoted in Bhagavad Gita purports, and he's one of the Alvars, and he was a Ram Bhakta. And he wasn't just, he wasn't an ordinary Ram Bhakta. He was absorbed in the mood. So as he was hearing a recitation of Ramayana, in the mood that he was participating in the pastime, when he heard that Sita was kidnapped and taken by Ravana to Lanka, he grabbed his sword and led his army, rushing as fast as he could go, to cross the sea to get to Lanka with his sword raised in the air. And he got immersed in the sea up to his shoulders. And then, but he's in this transcendental ecstatic mood. There are persons that have that quality, that qualification. And he was somehow brought back to land and said, it's going to be all right. Ram's going to rescue Sita. He should redeem her, not you, not Hanuman, but Ram should redeem her. So he came back. Just like when Hanuman wanted to take Sita, he became really big. He was really small, so he wouldn't be seen. Let me take you. She said, you're a little monkey, huh? So he made himself really big. Said, you can get on my shoulders. And she gave X, Y, Z reasons why that's not a good idea. If you're flying through the air, I might fall off. Then what's going to happen? Or while you're flying away, they might fire arrows, and then you'll have to defend against, I might get hit with the arrows. So that's not a good idea. Besides, Ram should redeem me, not you. So this messenger said, like Hanuman, you're not to redeem Sita. Ram is to redeem. So come on back. He was in another. So these Alvars that were in the mood of the gopis, they were in the mood of the gopis. They weren't just writing poetry. They were in the mood of the gopis, with the understanding that Krishna is an avatar, Narayana. And now back to the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is giving us, just as this verse is giving us, something that without knowing the earlier portions of the Bhagavatam, you're shaking your head saying, what? Meaning, in the third canto, there's an elaborate discussion of Sankhya. Sankhya is taught by Kapila Dev, chapter 26 of Canto 3. Details and details and details, just like this list is on the board, and how the whole puzzle pieces fit together, how everything fits together, including the demigods. And there's lots of nice understanding. Earlier in the third canto, also a Sankhya section, where Brahma is building the universe and everything is ready to go, but nothing happens. And the demigods can't make it go. So what do the demigods? So, the elements are created. Brahma assembles the elements. The demigods are manifested. We're all ready to go, and nothing happens. So the demigods then go to Lord Vishnu and appeal to him, please enter. You've given us the power, but without having entered into the universe, nothing's going to happen. So he enters into the universe and to the elements as Garbhodakshay Vishnu and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And then stuff happens. So everything is dependent upon Vishnu. And manifesting the elements, assembling the elements, manifesting the demigods, all of this is in this verse, number 2. And then And on your mark it said, go. But no, there's no go without Vishnu. So Akrura, he understands Sankhya, and he understands the source, and he understands that others don't understand. I mean, he's including himself. He's not putting place himself of Brahma, but he, Akrura, doesn't understand what the residents of Vrindavan understand. Or how are we to read the Bhagavatam? Is it a puzzle? That we're supposed to come to know all these things about the absolute truth as being the source of everything, and then the details of everything and how the puzzle pieces fit together. And then go beyond that and say, actually, it's not so important that you know all those things. What's important is your love for Krishna, like the residents of Vrindavan. And so just become a follower of the resident of Vrindavan. And then you don't have to know all this stuff. Has anybody thought that thought? Like, you know, or say it the other way. In order to go back to Godhead, do you have to know all that stuff? If you don't understand Vedic cosmology and Sankhya philosophy, what happens? But you have you just like serving Krishna. What happens? Bhakti rests or is augmented by it's imperative to have proper sambandh again. Supposing somebody likes chanting. But supposing that somebody that likes chanting doesn't have proper sambandh again. They don't know the background to what's on the board here. The elements and they emanate from Krishna's body. Now, emanate from Krishna's body means Krishna expands himself, and from those Mahapurusha, the elements come and so forth. So, but you can say directly, they come from the Mahatattva, and the Mahatattva comes from Pradhan. Pradhan comes from the energy of Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu comes from, you just keep tracing back, and Krishna is the source. He's the cause of all causes. This is very elevated philosophy, like the cause of all causes, gosh. And all the puzzle pieces and how do they fit together. We're hearing them, and if you read the Bhagavatam, you hear it again and again and again. And it's not only new information, in principle it rubs against the very problem that we have that brought us to this material world, which is an aversion to Krishna. Dvesha towards Krishna. Dvesha means like disdain, dislike, animosity, negative feelings toward Krishna. It rubs against that. Krishna is the source of everything. And then there's lots of other options besides accepting Krishna is the source of everything. But Krishna is the source of everything. And so we hear it again and again. That's sambandh again. And then somebody may have an inquisitive mind and say, well, how does it fit? How is it? You say Krishna is the source of everything. Over there I see a chair. How is Krishna the source of that chair? Someone can have an inquisitive mind or philosophical mind, and there's an answer. And then it comes back to Krishna is the source of the chair, and he's the source of everything. He's the source of me, he's the source of that doubt. He's the source of everything. Now, Akrura is looking at Krishna and saying, it's from you, this body, anga, bhutaha, that all these things come. And then comes these things don't know you because they're within this realm. This is text 3 now. They're within the realm of inert matter, dull matter. And the demigods, they're not in the realm of dull matter. They're also their soul, but they're influenced by dull matter or the modes of nature and their karma for wanting to be a demigod. So they can't know. And even, it goes way up, even Brahma. Now Brahma knows, but he doesn't know fully. I mean, he even say if he doesn't know fully, and he's the head of our sampradaya, so where are we? I mean, we want someone that knows. So he knows what he needs to know to build the universe. That's what he knows. And that's a lot. He's it's the most intelligent being in the universe. But that intelligence is not sufficient. It's bhakti. And with bhakti comes intelligence. Tadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyanti te. Brahma's aspiration in his prayers, and it's in Canto 10, Chapter 14, his aspiration is, wow. Because he came to Vrindavan, and he saw what he saw. And he saw the opulence of Krishna, and he saw the intimacy of the residents of Vrindavan. And I want their association. This most intelligent person in the universe that Akrura is looking up to wants the association of the residents of Vrindavan, because he's seen how elevated they are. And their elevation is not in terms of what they know. Their elevation is in terms of, in Brahma knows, but their elevation is in terms of their intimacy with Krishna. And the intimacy with Krishna is not easily achieved. It's the most coveted thing. Most valuable things are costly, usually. So the cost of that intimacy is not just years and years and years, krita punya punja, years and years and years, volumes and volumes of austerity, because austerity doesn't get you there either. There has to be austerity. But service, that's selfless service. In volumes and volumes and volumes and volumes. You know, in our followings, the followers of Lord Chaitanya, following Lord Chaitanya, teach us, we need, Rupa Goswami in particular, we need to follow the path of those perfected souls. The cowherd boys, or the gopis, or the elders, or the residents of Vrindavan. We need to follow them. And by following them, we can get entrance. Now, Krishna can always make exception. No problem. No problem. Putana wasn't a follower of the residents of Vrindavan. So Krishna can make exception. But he's very kind. And our process helps us understand. We get access to the kindness. And one of the accesses to the kindness of Krishna is the holy name. You know, central to everything that we do. Central to everything that we do is the chanting of the holy name. And through the chanting of the holy name, purification and further spiritual awakening, so that we can understand the fullness of Krishna's merciful nature is within his holy name. Now, it's nice sounding teaching, and it's another thing to realize it, which is kind of like what Akrura is in. He has some understanding. He has very elevated understanding. He's a pure devotee. He's a pure devotee. And his place is not Vrindavan. His place is Mathura. Then when Krishna goes to Dwarka, he goes to Dwarka. Because he's a member of the Yadu dynasty. When Krishna shifts everybody to Dwarka, he goes to Dwarka, and he's with Krishna in Dwarka. He makes a boo-boo, and he gets, he leaves Dwarka for some time. Krishna brings him back. That's another story in the Bhagavatam. He is a pure devotee. These persons, when we say the residents of Vrindavan are most exalted, we shouldn't think in a material way, kind of belittle or poo-poo pure devotees. That's called offense. We don't do that. We honor them because they're pure devotees, and we're hearing the message of the Bhagavatam from one of them. So understanding Krishna Tattva, understanding Sambandha Gyan is essential. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, if you understand Krishna Tattva, your janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattva chakva deham purna janma naiti mam eti surjana. No more birth. So it's important. And to have proper bhakti for us sadhakas, Sambandha Gyan is essential. To chant Hare Krishna effectively, Sambandha Gyan is essential. It's not optional. It's essential. And then at the same time, as there's cleansing and purification and proper kinds of worship, one can become elevated to the position of understanding even beyond that as these residents of Vrindavan. It helps us become eligible for that kind of love that the residents of Vrindavan have. We're preparing ourselves for that. Hearing from Kura. Okay, let's see if there's some discussion. Yes, Saval?
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. The question of understanding the actions of pure devotees, and specifically here of Akrura, we hear in the previous chapter that although you explained that he not only understands, everything, but he was able to witness, the Vrijavasis. But the narration is that he neglected to console the gopis, and therefore they became offended and cursed him.
He didn't neglect. He didn't neglect. He was following Krishna. But go ahead.
Yeah, well...
He made an offense, but it wasn't... It was part of a Krishna Leela offense.
Yes.
He did what he did because that's part of Krishna's Leela. Somebody's bringing him to... So he had that instrument of Krishna's Leela. The gopis didn't like it. You'll have to experience separation. They didn't say you're going to have to do bad stuff. They said, you're going to have to experience separation from Krishna like we're experiencing. That's all. So he did, in a way that flowed according to Krishna's Leela. Because somebody else made a big offense. Satyabhama's father. So he was just part of that. And other purposes that Krishna was fulfilling. There's deep mystery for sure, and it's not like, oh, okay, that's great. That the internal potency, or we're accustomed to saying the Yogamaya potency. Our acharyas often use the word Leela Shakti. Exactly how Leela Shakti equates to Yogamaya potency is Leela Shakti is sub-potency. I don't know how that works. But Leela Shakti, Yogamaya potency, the Lord's plan. Devotees like Akrura, they're just part of Krishna's plan. He could apologize to Krishna for taking him out of Vrindavan. I know how much love you have for the resident of Vrindavan. And here I brought you to Kamsa. And I knew Kamsa's plan was to kill you. But I also knew that you can't be killed. Kamsa will be killed. And that's part of your plan. So please forgive me for bringing you, how can you, anyway, it's part of the mystery. It stimulates the love of Krishna's Leela is to stimulate the love of his devotees. There's a nice description of this. I'm just elaborating. When chapter 15 of Canto 10, the cowherd boys are doing their thing again, like in chapter 12, just a little older. A little older means now instead of herding calves, they're herding cows. Krishna's 6 instead of 3, 4, and 5. So they're doing their playful activities again and again and again and again, and the mood gets to the place where the cowherd boys say, if you deem it proper, can we enter the tal forest and get the tal fruits? Now they say, we've heard that the wicked demon, he eats people. Dhenukasura is known that Brijvasis go and he eats them. Is it cannibal? So if you deem it possible, let's go. So then the acharyas, there are some people that they complain. How can they invite Krishna to go to a place where he's at risk? How is that friendship? How is that love? You don't invite a friend to go to some dangerous place. Hey, let's go to Afghanistan. And chant Hare Krishna on the street. Come on, let's go. You don't do that in friendship. So the explanation is given because they knew how powerful, they've seen it. Krishna is all powerful. Commentators go on to say the cowherd boys are as powerful as Krishna is because they're empowered by Krishna. And anyway, in Gopal Champu, he lets them have it. The cowherd boys hit Dhenuka with sticks and kick him and punch him and throw him around. And they're powerful too, but they want to see Krishna do it. Anyway, so it's a mystery for those that don't have bhakti. And for those that have bhakti, pure devotees do what Krishna wants. And occurs a pure devotee, and he does what Krishna wants, including, taking an insult from the gopis. Not an insult, a curse. So then he's also separated. And the bad stuff that did, it's not like it's okay because he's a pure devotee. He can do bad stuff. He can kill Krishna's father-in-law, no problem, because he's a pure devotee. And Krishna didn't tell him like he told Arjuna. But it's part of Krishna's Leela. We can say he was flawed, but he's a pure devotee. How can a pure devotee, anyway, so these are mysteries. And one of the big answers for such mysteries is Krishna's Leela Shakti. And it's working perfectly. And the pure devotees have no other interest in their heart of hearts than Krishna's interest. So they may do things that look like it's going against Krishna's interest. And there's lots of mystery. Like, why did Balaram teach fighting with a club to Duryodhana? And so forth. There's mystery, and it occurs part of the mystery. He's a pure devotee, and he's moving on Krishna's chessboard for his pastimes, stimulating the love of the devotees in various ways, including Akura. When Kura is separated from Krishna, how was he feeling? Because he has no interest but Krishna. So it was to enhance his loving attraction for Krishna when he brought back, "Oh, Krishna, you're so kind." Krishna didn't scold him for killing Satyajit. He just said, show the Shamataka jewel, please. Okay, now you continue worshipping it. I mean, before it was give the jewel to Ugrasena, now it's you continue worshipping it. Because the main thing, even with Satyajit, was to relieve him from pride. Because he was so proud of his wealth. But he didn't say to Akura, give the jewel to Ugrasena. You worship. He wasn't attached to the wealth, and he wasn't attached to the pride of having that wealth. He was attached to Krishna. So there's a lot of mystery. And, mundane logic measuring sticks don't work. Akura is one of those puzzles. Someone else?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you for your class. You were saying we have to have some proper sambandha gyan if we want to chant properly.
Yeah.
So my question is that sometimes devotees may be put in a catch-22 situation where somebody may ask us, do you have proper sambandha gyan? And if we say yes, that may be consider us proud. And if we say no, then what am I talking to you for? So what should our response be to such questions? Because we, it's kind of catch-22.
I heard something in an interview, a podcast with Satchidananda Swami that I had never heard before. I'll just share with you, because you like nectar. So, who is the carrier of Bhakti Devi? We know the carrier of Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, and Ganga Devi, and this one and that one. Who is the carrier of Bhakti Devi? And the answer is the humility within the heart of the devotee is the carrier of Bhakti Devi. Bhakti Devi goes wherever that humility goes. Or humility goes where Bhakti Devi wants the humility in the heart of the devotee to go. Nice, huh? So the answer should be an answer of humility. At least in principle, resting upon humility. Now you may say your response should be coming from a platform of a position of humility when there's genuine bhakti. Then you can say all kinds of different things. You can say, you're right, Prabhu. Really, you shouldn't be listening to me because I'm, or, a place of humility. I'm striving. I'm trying sincerely. Or you can say, I'm just repeating the words as I've understood it, as I can recall them and understood it from a pure devotee. I'm just a postal peon. And it can be different answers, but resting upon a heart that has humility within it. That's how you can respond. And then whatever is appropriate or whatever moves you at the moment, let it arise from a place of humility, spiritual kind, not the material kind. Okay, anything online? No? Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.